Hey there, hope you're doing well. This is podcast number two in this series of B2B Sales podcast. So if you haven't checked the previous one out, I highly recommend you do so because I'm going to pick up from where I left off, right? So without further ado, let's get jump right in. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to pick up from where we left off in the previous podcast. So we drew this diagram, and again, I'm not going to the details, just to jump right in and move forward here. We went as far as mailboxes, and I said let's talk about mailboxes in the subsequent podcast, right? So let's talk about it a little bit. When you're sending these emails out um, to your prospects, you're going to send them using mailboxes, right? Now, do you want to, let's say, you have a domain, right, for your product. Like our domain is snowpal.com, right? A primary domain, if you will. At least from a B2C standpoint, for B2B, our APIs are on multiple API hubs, AWS Marketplace being the most important of the hubs as far as we are concerned. So definitely go to aws.snowpal.com to check out our APIs, right, and backends and services and our SaaS products. Now, you don't want to use your primary domain for your sales emails. And here's why. Uh, you know, uh, your emails, whether or not the emails you send, the sales emails, end up in the actual inboxes of your prospects, is almost anyone's guess. But on a more serious note, you have to do a number of things to make sure, not make sure to increase the chances of those emails ending in your prospects inboxes, right? Otherwise, it's not going to magically happen. Just remember that it's going to end up in spam and other places. Now, with all the recent changes that we're hearing, with how Gmail and Outlook going to crack down on this, on the notion of spam and other emails, unfortunately, even reaching out to a genuine prospect for selling a product that is going to actually help them be successful is going to be a challenge. Just unfortunately, because of all the phishing and other related emails, I believe, as I understand it. So life is not going to get any easier, but we'll live and learn as we go, right? So email prospecting is only one way to do. I don't know if it's going to actually flat out die into 2024. Most likely not. So we're going to have to live and learn and see how we're going to have to how we should make those adjustments. But till then, want to do your best to make sure to not make sure it seems like 100%. There's no guarantees, obviously, to increase the chances of your emails landing in your prospects inboxes. How do you do that? You need to have a high email reputation. And what does it mean? What is email reputation, right? How do you build a reputation? How do you not hurt your existing reputation, right? So if you took our current product, B2C products, we use transactional emails. When you sign up for service using our tool for project management and a number of other things, you need to get notified when when we send you reminders based on how you've configured it. When someone shares content with you on the platform, you get notified either on the mobile app or on the web or on both places, depending on your priorities and your configuration. Now, those emails need to end in your inboxes when the emails do get sent out. The emails only get sent out based on how you've configured them for them to be. So it's not all the time. Otherwise, we rely on push notifications for mobile apps and so on and so forth. But when emails do get sent out, they need to actually be, they need to end up in your inboxes, right? So those are transactional emails. We use obviously the same domain Snowpal for those transactional emails. That's But you don't want to mess with that domain when you're sending sales emails, because when you're prospecting, if you know as carefully as you prospect, it happens that you end up sending emails and reaching out to folks who may not have an interest in what it is that you're offering, either at this time or till the end or till eternity, right? Unfortunately, but it's hard to know because you're going to do a fair bit of reach out. Whether you cast a wide net by sending it to hundreds of thousands of people, or you send to the least number of people, you're going to have to send to a fair number of people before you find traction. That's just how it works, right? So you have to be careful, because people are, just like I get tens of emails, and I try to be respectful and say, hey, please don't send me again, or unsubscribe, for instance. But there are times I get emails that have completely unrelated to the business we are in. So you end up unsubscribing to those emails, right? But the more unsubscribes that happen, the more it's going to hurt your reputation. The more people if they mark your email as spam, it's really bad. which is why you have to be really, really, really careful in making sure you only send your emails to folks you think might have an interest, right? You feel like you looked at the product, the offering, the business, the role, and then you send. And even then, there might be times you are marked as spam, you're unsubscribed, you cannot help it. And you can look up the percentages, right? I think about, I want to say, from what I understand, about 15% of B2B emails, and you can expect to get responses on like 15% of them or something like that, right? It's a very small number. It's a very, very small number. Out of the 15%, again, these are not. I mean, I'm just giving you numbers that come to mind. Look up Google to find out the actual numbers, but this may or may not be completely off. But I don't know. At least that's my recollection of what those numbers were. 15 to 20% is when what I read was the number of the response rate could be around that, pretty low. Now that rate will become even lower if you actually uh, don't prospect better, right? So you want to be careful as to how you prospect. That way that number is a little bit higher than what the average or the median number is, and then people have an interest, and not too many people are clicking unsubscribe or spam to hurt your reputation. So back to mailboxes, what are some of the things we want to jot down here? Let's actually put a big heading called mailbox. Oops, I don't know how many minutes. And okay, mailboxes, what are some of let's maybe pick I don't know, let's pick a slightly different shape here and put some of the words that come to mind. The first thing I said was, okay, let's pick a different color, use this one elsewhere. Okay, some of the things: email reputation. You need to certainly build this. We'll see how we can do it. How many emails you can send, how you can increase the number of emails you send, and so on and so forth. But before that, I'm just going to call this emails. Maybe the right word. I guess that's fine. Okay. Email reputation. The next one is going to be mailboxes. So you're going to have to, get a different domain, at least two domains from what I'm told, to send out these sales emails, right? Per salesperson. Now you have a sales team that has a lot of number of sales engineers. Then you probably need more mailboxes, right? At least two per sales person is what I'm understanding it, right? So you get those mailboxes, go to GoDaddy or one of those places to just get a couple of new domains, and you purchase emails for those domains, and you start sending emails through the sales tools using those emails. You can configure the mailboxes in the sales tools that you use. How many emails should get sent out, right? Questions like, let me actually right here maybe. How many emails per day in total? How many emails per mailbox per day? How many emails per sequence per day? So you'll have to come up with these numbers. You're going to have to play and figure out which ones work, what doesn't work, what's too few, what's too many. So there's a number of such decisions you're going to have to make, right? So let me go here. Still works more or less okay, but there's bugs. It has its fair share of bugs. Okay. Uh, those are decisions you make. You want to start with a certain number of emails. Let's say you start with 5 emails a day, right? Per mailbox, and then you can increase it as you go. But you want to wait for the email. The mailbox of your email reputation has to be established first, right? Before it increases, it needs to be established. I don't know what it starts at. Probably starts at somewhere close to zero. So you need to establish a reputation. So you purchase a domain, create a mailbox, send like 100 emails, and you're going to be in big trouble. It's all going to go to spam. It ends up going to spam regardless, even when it's a genuine email. I've actually typed emails, and literally typed every single line in an email and sent to people, and it's I've been told, because they respond to it after a few weeks, and someone told me, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't see this. It was very nice and courteous of that prospect, and I was just curious to learn, and I'm like, what happened, right? I mean, and they told me that it landed in their spam. They have coincidentally happened to notice it because they were looking for some other email, and the person had asked them to look into spam, and then they spotted my email, and then they responded to my email, right? So that is an example of a very genuinely written complete email that was not written using a sales tool. I actually sent the email from my client and still ended up in the spam folder, unfortunately, right? So we have to deal with it as folks who are in the business of actually selling, right? So, uh, how do you, let's talk a little bit more about email reputation, right? What are some of the words that you have to Google basically? I believe it's SPF, DKIM, DMARC, etc., etc., right? All of these basically play a role in email authentication and establishing your email credibility, a reputation of your email. So you can look this up. There's plenty of articles online. Folks have been really uh, graceful enough, gracious enough to write it, so people like us, who, at least like me, who did not know enough about what all of this meant, could actually learn from. So Google those terms and those protocols. The crux of it essentially is this, right? How does a tool or an email server determine whether it's a legit email? It needs to know that it's coming from a credible authorized sender, and the email was not modified in transit. Those are some of the things that come to mind, but there's more to this puzzle. So it tries to make those judgments, saying, hey, is this a valid domain? Does snowpal.com, is it a legit company? It sure is. Do they make brilliant products? Of course, but of course, I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding that we make brilliant products. I'm just kidding that the email uh, provider, they're not going to find that out. They're going to tell if your domain is legit, if it's coming from a credible sender, whatever else it needs to do to satisfy the requirements of these specifications and protocols, like SPF, DKIM, DMARC, and so on. Um, the better you configure these things, the higher the chances of your emails ending in those inboxes. As simple as that. Now, again, do you need to know enough about these to write a thesis? I don't think so, right? It took us like a couple of hours, if that, probably not even that, to satisfy these requirements and setting up, because you're a legit company selling good products, established. You're a good citizen as a company, right? If you know what I mean. So it takes no time to go through the process and get it done, and a couple of hours later, if that, you're done. That doesn't mean just because you're a legit company, you have you're located in a certain place and you're selling real things and everything is legit about you. Does that mean your reputation, email reputation is going to start at 100%? Not really, right? Because it's a brand new domain, it's a brand new account, mailbox, brand new email. So you're gonna have to build that reputation. And how do you build it? By sending emails. But the emails have to land in inboxes. So send few, very very few, 2 emails a day, 5 emails a day, right? And then you work your way through. And there are tools that help you warm your emails up. So if you're googling this, just look for warming email inboxes or something along these lines, and you can learn more about it, right? Give it time, so the email inboxes are warmed up, and so you can actually start sending sales emails. That's how I believe you're supposed to do it, right? Now, even though we send very few emails when we even do it. Yet I've been told, like I mentioned that example repeatedly, that it does end in spam and spam folders. That's the unfortunate reality. It is going to happen. I've asked a lot of salespeople who I respect, and they have not told me anything otherwise. Right? They said, "Yep, you're going to have to account for it." So you send a bit more. So you send, say, if you send 100 emails, 15 of them or 20 of them show an interest, and then some of them show. I've seen it multiple times because these tools give you good insights into when the email was opened, how many times it was opened, and so on and so forth. So you figure out if there is an interest. Does that prospect have an interest? Now I don't know how good or bad this data is that these tools are reporting, but what else can you do, right? You are at the mercy of these tools. And then you figure which email template worked. In the last podcast we talked about templates and email a little bit, right? We talked about, you're drafting emails and personalizing them. You do A/B testing to figure out which emails resonate better with your prospects and ICPs, like ideal customer profile. Your prospects more so than some other emails, for instance. You're gonna have to make those determinations, right? What email works or not. Let's actually pause for a moment and talk about how to draft those emails, right? Because that's anything but easy, trust me. Right now, let me actually create one more box here. I wish they had a lot more shapes, but you know what, I'm going to go with the shape I'm most comfortable with and just pick a different color. Okay, I believe we've not used, oh, we did use that color already, so I'm just going to go with this one. Yep. Okay, now let's talk about the verbiage, right? The language in those emails. Again, I'm talking very specifically emails here. So email language. So you have a template one, first email, right? And then let's say you have a template two for the first email, and you can do some A/B testing to figure out which one works. Does this one work better, or does the other one work better, right? So let's say I'm gonna put an arrow here. Okay, can I want to make that arrow double-sided? Okay. So you write the first version of what I wrote. Trust me, I explained everything about every API we have. I think we had like 6 at the time. Now we have 8. But I explained all the 6 APIs. I provided links to like aws.snowpal.com, to a lot of different we have live products that run on our APIs, right? So I had links to those applications, a number of different links, couple of attachments, and the email looked pretty rich. Unfortunately, when you have attachments and these links, there's a higher chance of them ending up in spam, in the spam folder. At least that's what I learned. Because, phishing emails tend to have these links and attachments and whatnot. So unfortunately, even genuine emails like the ones we send out end up, being subjected to that scrutiny, and they end up in the wrong inboxes and nobody gets to ever see it. So the first email was very detailed. It had all the information. Like, you could know a lot about our company, but it didn't make sense. It ran into like 3 paragraphs, right? My understanding is most people read spend 8 to 10 seconds, if that, if an email even ends up in their inbox, which again I've said many a times, it may or may not, and most of the times unfortunately it does not. Even if it does end in their inboxes, people spend about 8 to 10 seconds, as I understand reading that email, which means how many lines are going to be able to read? Maybe 3-4 lines, give or take. So your email needs to have picked your prospect's interest within those first 8 to 10 seconds. Now it's very challenging. If you time 8 to 10 seconds, right? Imagine, let's even do it at real time. I don't know. I think I might have like a timer app or something on my machine. Let me see. Let's do a real life thing, right? So I'm going to say 10 seconds here. Oops. I guess my tool doesn't let me enter like 10. Okay, I'm going to do a 10-second thing, right? Let's see how this thing works. I'm going to start the timer. At the count of 3, I'm going to count down from 3. When you hit 0, I'm going to start pretending like I'm the email, right? I'm going to read this out, and it might be a fun exercise. Oops, let me. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Hey Krish, we are an API company that provides backends as services to help your team reduce time to market on your apps. And that's it. I'm only past. I was looking at that. I would have said that better than I did, except I was looking at the time all along, right? So let's try it one more time. Sorry, let's try it one more time. 3, two, one, go. Hey Krish, we provide APIs and backends as services to help teams reduce time to market for their applications. I'm already at the 9 second, right? One more time, since the time was here, I'm a bit conscious. My apologies, but that was like 10 seconds. That is, and it took me 10 seconds, but when you're reading it, it's going to be a little bit faster. You can actually read faster than I can speak that. So I reckon you can read like three sentences, maybe, right? I don't know, depending on the length of the sentence, right? Maybe 30 words if I have to put a number to it. Not more than that. That's what I'm trying to make an impression here, right? You got all of like 30, 35 words to make that impact. And if you think that's a lot of words, I suggest you just type it and then you realize how it's not that many words. Especially even if you're not someone like I, who actually is pretty verbose, as you can tell, it still takes a lot of effort. So the first email was very, very, very long. It had actually 8 paragraphs, right? So let me write it down here. Let me put a line. Let me draw a line here. Okay. The first email had about 4 to 5 paragraphs. You can imagine what the size was. Obviously, that didn't make sense, and we learned it the hard way. Then the second email, we made it like 2 paragraphs. We thought, okay, you know what? We've reduced the length of the paragraphs. I would say two smaller paragraphs, right? That didn't seem too bad. I mean, how bad can it be? It's two paragraphs after all, right? But as it turned out, that was one too many as well, right? The paragraphs were like 4 lines, 5 lines long. So fast forward many iterations later, I think it took us like about an 8 hour session straight out to come up with nth version, where this may or may not be the perfect version, right? We don't have to keep going, but the version as we are at today. So let me give it a number. Let's call it the 30th version or something, right? The current version. The current version has about like 100 words, maybe, go 100 words ish. I think that's what I suspect it has. Uh, and to get to that point, it was a challenge, right? It was a big challenge because you want to express what you have, what your company does truthfully, honestly, to the extent that it does it today. Um, but you also want to pick the curiosity of your reader. It needs to be interesting. It shouldn't be boring, but it should also express what you're trying to express. So when you put a combination of all of, and it should work on mobile and on your desktop client, because there are emails we had where we had a signature with our QR code, like one QR code, or I don't know, like one screen attachment. It was not visible on a standard iPhone size, right? So we had to actually reduce the length of the email so the QR codes would also be visible. Not that they had to be, but it just looked prettier if they were visible. So we had to make all those adjustments and ultimately arrived at this beautiful current version, which tomorrow I might think needs to be we might think needs to be tweaked, which is an ongoing effort, right? But ultimately we arrived at one which we like as of the time of this recording. As a team, we actually like that particular email, the way it's drafted. It's specific. It talks about an API. It talks about the value add we bring to the table. It speaks to why we doing it, why that product would make you significant different to the success of our prospects, right? All of them within 100 word draft. And also it needs to be interesting, right? What if it says all of this but it's boring and it's laborious? I mean, nobody's going to want to read. There needs to be an element of attraction to those words and to how they present themselves. So that's what it is, right? So you try out, do A/B testing, figure out which emails work, which ones don't work. And also, let me tell you, a given email that works in a particular geography, to a particular demographic, to a particular group of people in society that work in a certain industry, may not work at all for somebody else who's in a different industry in different part of the world. So if you drafted that one perfectly beautiful email and thought your job was done, I'm sorry, my friend, it's not done, right? For we have multiple products in our ecosystem. We have like APIs, we have web apps, mobile apps, Snowpal education. There's a number of different things. We courses, we sell a number of different things, which means all our emails have to look different from each other. They have to look different from each other. yet they have to make that impression within the first couple of lines. So that's enough about, I think that's a fair bit about emails, emails, creating those templates, associating those templates with sequences, and then trying out, doing this A/B testing to figure out which one works, which doesn't work, and then you can have a base template version. But then before you send it, after you've done the due diligence about that prospect, you can make adjustments to that email so it speaks to that language, right? Now, if I got an email that said that was very generically worded, I'm probably not going to react to it. If it had some references to me and our company, I'm going to give it a second look. But what if it went further? That the actual sender had dug a little bit deeper, understood our APIs, the value add that it brought to the table, and then asked a more specific question, or popped a question, or got me thinking. Then there's a much higher chance of me responding to that, salesperson, and hit reply, for instance, right? So that's where we want to get to, but that's not an easy, you have to cross the bridge. It's actually, it takes a while to get there. And, I don't think you ever get there really, really, because over time, moment you get there, some things may have changed. The market could have changed. The dynamics could have changed. OpenAI has changed all our lives, right? So all of those things are going to play a role. Plus, maybe it worked for a group of prospects. Maybe it doesn't work for another group. And now you try to figure why. You cannot tell any differences, meaning they are situated in the same part of the world, they are in the same kind of business. So it should have worked for this group of this cohort as well, but then it did not. So then you have to go and try to do that research, try to ask why. Maybe they are not in the business that you think they are in, or maybe the way you worded the emails was good for it helped you connect with some people and not everybody. Who knows what the answer is? But it depends on the problem, depends on your reach out, depends on the tool, depends on a plethora of factors. So it's up to us, each one of us, to figure out what works, what doesn't, in the context of what it is that we're selling, and then make those adjustments, right? The short of it is, no matter how many tools there are, there is still a human element. The tools obviously help us be more productive, do less of what we don't have to do, which makes a lot of sense, right? They give us more reach, more scalability. But there is still, two people using the same tool, reaching out to the same prospect, are going to find that the results are different, actually, because they bring the human element into the picture, and that nobody can take that away from any of us. At least that's what I believe. So you're going to have to live and learn, and hopefully we all learn sooner than later, right? That's me talking about prospecting in the context of tools, sales tools, and we've got as far as mailboxes and emails and email reputation, SPF, DKIM, DMARC. I didn't talk much about setting up these records, the DNS records, but again, if you look up the examples, it's reasonably straightforward, right? Depending on which DNS provider you're using, you can go there. Their UI and user interface is going to look a little different, but then you're going to do what you need to do to ensure that these are set up. And once you set them up once, you may have to revisit to make some adjustments, because things always change. But I reckon you don't have to do it all that frequently, and you can focus your energies on finding the right prospects and going after your ICP. I think we're close to the half-hour mark here. This might be a good place to pause this podcast, and we'll talk more in the subsequent ones. What other tools should we be using? Email is one way to do it. What other ways can we possibly do the notion of prospecting? What works? What doesn't work? How do you use these other tools that I'm going to talk about in the subsequent podcast? There's plenty more to discuss here, and we will take it slowly but surely. We'll just move along. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.